Today we've got questions on the gift of tears, Duns Scotus, Christ the King, and what does Charles think of the idea of moving to Luxembourg? Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with a spivvy, Charles Coulombe.
Spivvy? Like a spiv?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So basically, I'm like one of these guys during World War II in Britain who were black marketeers. Flashy dressers and... Right, Gov? A little short of butter, are you? And the funny thing, a friend of mine happens to have a shipment of it that fell through the cracks.
Just like that. It was just like that for me, except with confession. Black market confession.
Well, that is true. I was a confession spiv during the lockdown. This is true. Hey, Governor, you're looking a little sinful. Need a touch-up solution, do we? I think I can help you out, Gov. Right, I got this friend down to Acme. He knows the priest will need a confession. Yeah, okay, great. Fine, I'm a spiv.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'd rather be a spiv than a chav.
What's a chav? Isn't that like a British term?
It is. So spiv. They're both British terms.
What's a chav?
Chav is like a yabo. It's like a lower class.
A young person of a
booby.
type characterized by coarse and brash behavior with connotations of low social status.
Yes, indeed. I'd rather be a spiv than a chav. Spivs know how to dress. Chavs don't.
Okay, well, yeah, definitely. At least you're dressed in a flashy way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Righto, Governor. Right, ja.
So how's your November going?
Well, it's all so difficult. It's all so difficult. I turned 64 last week. A week ago, and they're still feeding me. Whether or not they need me, they feed me. And that's not all. We had an election, and somebody or other won something or other. I'm not quite sure what. It's this big deal in the States. I don't know.
Okay.
Martha Stewart probably won Woman of the Year or something. I don't know what the deal is. And the House of Representatives have finally emerged with a majority. The Rasputicans.
Are you excited?
I'll just say this gives the Trumpster 2 years to make or break.
Well, what do you mean make or break?
Well,
I mean,
pardon me.
he doesn't have to get elected again.
No, he doesn't. But I mean to say, he's got 2 years to really show what he's made out of because he's got complete control of both houses and he's got a friendly Supreme Court. So everything is on him now.
What do you think's going to happen?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay. What do you think of some of his appointments? What is it? You got my favorite one is Elon and Vivek with Doge, Department of Governmental Efficiency. What do you think of that? Do you think it's going to do anything? It seems like they're really going to be severe.
The name is kind of a non sequitur because if it's government, it's not efficient.
Okay.
I mean, that's like the Department of Square Wheels.
I honestly think they just named it for the meme, the Doge meme. I don't know if you're familiar, but pretty sure that's why they did it.
Well, yeah, one thing is that with the head of Twitter now in an important governmental position, things are really merging.
In what way?
Well, there used to be boundaries between the civil sector and the government sector and this and that. Now everything is everything.
Couldn't you?
But I mean, maybe he'll do a great job. I don't know.
I mean, couldn't you
I
say that
mean,
before though? I mean, I thought there were a lot of studies that came out to show previous Twitter's involvement with the political parties, particularly the Democratic Party.
yeah, but see, that was okay because it was with the Democratic Party.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is there's always been this fusion with social media and the government. I mean, in the past, I don't know, 10 years or so.
Well, yes, but it was good when it was the Democrats.
Right. Elon likes to point that out, that you've got, in terms of the media, I mean, you've got Zuckerberg, Bezos, Soros, Bill Gates, everybody, but at least they're on the right side.
All, well, yeah, they're all. Don't forget too that they in and of themselves, they represent diversity.
Yes, all all white nerdy males.
Yeah, but different kinds of white nerdy males. Soros is older than God. Zuckerberg is the nerd's nerd. I don't think you're taking them seriously enough. I think you think of them as a bunch of morons, highly priced, overpaid, overly wealthy morons.
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay, that's it. Look, if that's how you feel, that's a valid feeling. It's not up for me to say you're wrong. I mean, I'm not here to classify for you what you have to think. So if you feel they're a bunch of jerkwads, well, who am I to say you're wrong? I don't know. I've never met any of them.
Okay. I mean, and personally, I mean, for me, at least, the one thing that separates Elon from all of those people is he's got a sense. He's got a good sense. Well, yes, but I like his sense of humor. Actually, I do.
He does have a sense of humor, and of course, he's a field. Whether or not it's true, he does seem to understand a little bit more what normal people go through. But who's to say that's really true? I don't know. But we did the captains of the kings departed. No more red poppies or Bleuet de France or Vergesst mir nichts on people's lapels. We're not doing that. St. Martinmas came and went. No more Martini Gans, no more St. Martin's goose in the restaurants. Gearing up for Advent around here. The Advent markets are about to open up. A lot of glühwein and various other hot alcoholic beverages will be consumed in public. The Central Europe hasn't gotten the memo yet about the evils of drinking in public. So they tend to do a lot of it this time of year. Because it's cold.
They drink in public because it's cold?
Yes. They have these little booths of these Advent markets, and half of them are giving out glühwein. And then you've got the hot chestnut men, who I particularly like, who roast chestnuts and sometimes potatoes and other things on these open-air grills. And you buy bags full of them, and you eat them as you walk along because they're hot. You've got your chestnuts or your potatoes or something in one hand. You've got your glühwein in the other, and you're eating and you're drinking. And it's cold outside. So if you're not doing that, you stay inside and you turn up the heat and you thank God you're not outside. And you just enjoy being warm and cozy, which is something Angelinos don't ever get.
Warm and cozy?
Yeah, I mean, it's always warm, and so it's hard. It's hard to get cozy when it's 95 degrees outside, and more so when it's been 111 for a week.
Well, I think Angelinos develop a special sensitivity so that when it's like 60 degrees, it feels equivalent to your 30 degrees. See?
I see. So it's 60 degrees. You guys are inside, and you're like this.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something about. I think a lot of people who move to California, a big part of it is the weather too. I know my in-laws. It's a huge deal. For my dad, it was a huge deal too. I mean, he came from New York, and he was always laughing at the weather at New York, and yeah, he got sensitive, I guess, about the weather. Um, I don't know. Californians are. There's a good chunk of people who I think can't even imagine living anywhere else in the country on the basis of weather.
I've heard that.
I've
mean,
encountered these people. Yeah.
even when they'll tell you, "Oh, I can't stay here. I can't afford to pay the taxes. The homeless are everywhere. There's this, there's that, there's the other." But then I go to Pittsburgh for Thanksgiving, and I decide, well, I guess I'll stay here.
Wait, what? Stay in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, well, they don't want to stay in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I've never had roasted chestnuts. That's hard to get in California, isn't it? Is that a European thing? Where do you get roasted chestnuts?
No, you get them in New York, Boston, Philadelphia. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Yuletide carols sung by a choir. Oh, well, you get the idea.
Yeah. That's okay, though.
It's beginning to look a lot like Advent. Do you do two Thanksgivings, or how? I guess your mother doesn't do Thanksgiving anymore, does she?
My mom does Thanksgiving. Her mom or her parents do Thanksgiving. So, but they don't do turkey for Thanksgiving. So it's
Lasagna?
they jump around. They have I don't know, veal with pasta sometimes. So yeah, it's good. But I need my I need my turkey. I need my pumpkin pie. I need my stuffing. These are important things.
They are important things. I agree with you. The best thing about Thanksgiving is the food. Yeah. The big turkey.
Yeah.
The stuffing. Where do you stand on the green bean casserole issue?
I am anti-green bean. I mean, there's so much good stuff. Why are you going to waste part of your appetite on green bean casserole? Why are you going to do that?
All right. Well, how would mashed potatoes or yams?
Yams, big time.
Yams or sweet potatoes?
Yams, big time. No sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
I don't mess around with that. Yams. Just let's keep it simple. Yams.
I am what I am. In the immortal words of Popeye the Sailor Man. All right. Well, let's see. We're getting somewhere. Giblet gravy or broth?
Giblet gravy. Are you nuts?
I'm just asking. These are the alternatives. You can throw it one. Stuffing or dressing?
Stuffing or dressing? Stuffing.
Okay. Real turkey or veg substitute?
Oh.
Where do you stand on mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving?
We don't really do mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving. Again, we do yams. I just feel like mashed potatoes are kind of a year-round thing. So, you don't need to do that at Thanksgiving.
Okay, what about bathtub carp?
That is for Christmas. Okay? Don't get it mixed up here, Charles.
No Thanksgiving carp swimming up. I don't know why it is, but all the Slovaks I know, when I mention the Christmas, the carp in the bathtub at Christmas, they all get defensive. They all admit it. They all laugh. It's the reactions are very strange.
Is that really a thing over there?
It really is. It really is. And when I say, they puts a carp in the bathtub at Christmas. Oh, that's so silly. Will you do it? Well, yeah, yeah,
Seriously?
yeah.
I just don't understand the bathtub component. Like, for example, Italians have the Feast of the Seven Fishes, but we're able to simply have a fish feast without putting any fish in our bathtub.
Well, the reason is that the Slovaks like their fish really fresh. In other words, the idea is you don't kill the thing until you're literally ready to cook it. Carp in the bathtub, shoe fly shoe. Carp in the bathtub, shoe fly shoe. Carp in the bathtub, shoe fly shoe. Skip to blue, my darling.
If they're that particular, why carp? Of all the fish in the world, I mean, you're practically. It might as well be mackerel or something.
Well, you got to bear in mind. Have you ever been to the Slovak seacoast?
Okay, I mean that's fair, but carp is still a junk fish in lakes. I mean, don't they have trout, catfish, bass, something tasty?
No, they don't have any of that. All they've got is carp.
All they've got is carp. Okay. Well, I guess that's what my mom would term a famine food, in terms of just cheap, not necessarily the tastiest, but
yeah, but see, they serve it with all kinds of sauces. I mean, just to give you an example of what I mean, Christmas carp Slovak sauce. Not Christmas Carol. Carp Slovak sauce. Oh, this is great. This is one of them. You'll like this. One of them uses the water from the bathtub as the basis
in the
of a
sauce. Why? Why do they have to do that?
Well, they don't want to waste anything, obviously. And the thing is, you boil it, you reduce it to about a quarter of the pot.
Are you joking? Are you joking? You're okay. That was a good one, Charles, because
boiling the bathtub water.
That's just oh. I don't know. There's a lot of crazy people out there.
It concentrates the flavor. But actually, that aside, they do have some really interesting sauces. They've got a savory gingerbread sauce made with cake crumbs, a gingerbread spice mix, red wine, and raisins. They've got with white wine sauce, a warm cream sauce, blue sauce with potatoes. Yeah, they have a lot of these different sauces. So that answers your question.
Have you ever actually had this Christmas carp?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
What did you think?
It's great.
Is it?
It's wonderful.
Okay. Okay, well that's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Charles.
Well, I want to be invited back next Christmas Eve, so it was great.
Okay, great.
Delicious. And you know what? Their oplotki is better than yours.
That doesn't even make any sense. A plotki is such a simple wafer of bread with honey.
It's not in the Eastern Rite in Slovakia. It's puffier, and it emulates, just like the oplotki you're used to, imitates the host in the Latin Rite. The oplotki that the Byzantine Slovaks eat is much more like the antidoron, so it's more substantial.
More substantial. Okay, Charles. I don't even see on Google image search. All the oplotki looks like our Oplotki. I don't see this mysterious, more substantial Oplotki.
You're really gonna fight me on this? Okay,
I
fine.
am gonna fight you. Where is this newfangled Oplotki that is superior? I don't see
Give me
it.
a moment. You'll be sorry.
And for those of you who don't know, Oplotki is another sort of a Slavic Christmas tradition. It's a simple wafer of bread with usually some religious designs on it, and you would dip it in honey, and we usually pass it to a family member next to us to start the Christmas Eve meal, traditional Christmas Eve meal.
Yeah, see, those look like Oplotki, but I know what I've eaten. Doubtless they have a different name for it. Well,
I don't
we'll
think
do
so,
this.
Charles.
You know what? Give me a minute. Give me a minute. The Slovak Christmas feast. Now, traditions and symbolism. Hold on. Western Pennsylvania. The time of the dinner. Yeah, Oplotki. Yeah, a large square piece of Oplotki. And each person would break off a small piece to be consumed in unison at the end of Grandpa's blessing. That's what the Byzantines have here. It's a big square because it imitates the Byzantine communion in Byzantine families.
Okay, I'm seeing some images where it looks more like a pancake, a little bit, like a thin pancake or something. I don't know.
Give me just a minute, and no, that's not it. But I'm telling you, I've seen it, and it's more of a Byzantine deal because it imitates. Remember, the Oplotki, imitates our hosts really at communion, but this stuff imitates the Byzantine communion, and they call it Oplotki. So I don't know what to tell you.
We're really jumping ahead here, but a question just popped into my head. What is your all-time favorite Christmas meal that you've ever had?
Let me see. Turkey chow mein. No. I saw a Christmas Story though, so I'm
Yeah.
My all-time favorite Christmas meal. There've been a lot of them, over 60. So it's hard to choose, but I would say when I was a boy in New York, Christmas of '64. Just because it doesn't usually snow in that time of year, but I believe there was snow on the ground. It was certainly cold, and the house was really Christmased up. My parents had outdone themselves. This was Christmas Day. We didn't have much of a Christmas Eve dinner. Some fish. We didn't do the 7 fishes. We didn't do the carp. My dad didn't like fish much anyway. Only 2 kinds of fish Dad would eat were swordfish and tuna. They couldn't be more unalike. Now that was a very good Christmas. I think my Christmas here during lockdown was really a good Christmas because one of the kids here then really was an incredible cook, and I bought 6 geese, and we were sort of under siege, and the people who we had a Christmas feast, and that year we kept Christmas because it was locked down. We kept Christmas very well. We did New Year's, we did the Epiphany, then we had an Epiphany King, and the the king of the bean from the cutting of the Epiphany cake, the king cake. We had a big dinner on New Year's Eve, and a big dinner on the Epiphany, and and everybody came and everybody contributed stuff to it. And for a lot of the kids, it was their very first Christmas away from home, and it was with the added desperation of the lockdown.
Mm.
So this would have been Christmas of 2020 and the New Year 2021. And that was, I felt very good because I provided the biggest part of the feast myself. And the guy who cooked it did such a good job on the goose. And everybody was there. And the little kids were excited. And we were able to give them a good Christmas. And the young men and women who had never been away from home before all said, I think that's important that your first Christmas that you're away from your family should be good. It really should, because it's very difficult, especially when you're young, to imagine Christmas apart from your family. And if you don't have a really good Christmas that first time away, I think it makes it hard for you to believe you can have one away from them. But sometimes you're going to have to. And of course, when you get old enough, they'll all be gone. So it's important that the feast itself, rather than simply your family and your memories and all that, be something. I had one Christmas, it was 80. My first Christmas away from home was 83, and I remember I was sitting in the bar of the Maskers Club about a week before Christmas, and I thought, this is going to be horrible this year. I won't be home, and blah 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 blah. But I was drinking port, which has always tasted very Christmassy to me, and they had beautiful decorations up. And I thought, you know what? It doesn't matter where I am. It's still going to be Christmas. It's still going to be Christmas. And if I'm alone, I'm alone. I go to midnight mass, which is what I did. And then I saw a couple of friends, and we went back to one of their places for a party. And I ended up sleeping on the couch. And the next day, we all went to dinner. We went to a movie first, to be or not to be, and then we went to dinner at the late lamented Michael's Los Feliz, and had turkey. And that, I can't say it was my favorite Christmas, but it was my first one away from home, and it was a really good Christmas. Christmas of 2022, I was in the hospital, and that I thought was just going to be horrible, but it wasn't. A lot of people called from LA. A Eucharistic minister lady brought me communion, which, I mean, I would have rather it wasn't a woman, but you take what you can get. And so I had our Lord with me for Christmas. And I spent my time, when I wasn't talking to people on the phone, I spent my time remembering every Christmas I could all the way back to 1963, which is the first one I remember. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of Christmases. And then the kids here at school, because I couldn't be there for the thing, they emailed me or texted me, or whatever you want to call it, a video of the bunch of them at the Christmas feast singing the song I taught them, Fireball XL5, which is very touching. Because, I couldn't have visitors because of COVID. So, I mean, Christmas, I remember when I was in college, one year I was a security guard, and I had to play security guard over Christmas Eve, into Christmas Day. That wasn't very pleasant, but I had a thermos full of eggnog, and there was no internet in those days, nothing like that. But They had some canned Christmas music I listened to, so it wasn't awful.
Hmm.
Christmas, in other words, Christmas is what you make of it. And the same is true of Thanksgiving. In the end, it's what you make of it. If you can't be with your family and friends, then enjoy the holiday on its own terms.
All right, let's do some questions, Charles. Thank you for that. That really stirred the emotions. Uh, yeah.
Was it like Christmas elves?
Sure. Yeah.
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 Do you believe in Santa Claus?
No.
What?
No, I do not.
Do you believe? Do you believe in Mrs. Claus?
Why? Now, now you're just trying to belabor this part, the poke here. No, I don't believe in Mrs. Claus.
What about Santa's toy shop at the North Pole?
I don't believe in the toy shop. I don't believe in Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer. I don't believe in Frosty the Snowman.
Frosty the Snowman was a happy, jolly soul. He doesn't deserve to be smacked around like that. Well, that's painful. That's hurtful. Reanimated snowmen everywhere will be hurt.
Fortunately, reanimated snowmen don't have feelings. All right, let's move on.
Wow, that was dogmatic.
All right, Xenix, good old-fashioned Xenix. He says, salutations. What has Charles to say about the trend seen recently where nationalists draw the line for their monarchies to end of their land's early medieval era? For the English, many make a Godwinson a national martyr, or excuse me, many make Godwinson a national martyr, and thus treat William as illegitimate, despite Edward the Confessor appointing him heir since he's foreign. Croatian schooling treats the Arpads' succession with similar venom, so that the good little girls and boys don't get any idea about monarchy being part of our state tradition. This is sort of a follow-up to the previous question about the contempt of liberals for the Habsburgs as foreign. However, it's more to do with history as national memory.
Well, the problem you've got, of course, is that the political class and their stooges in the education and media industries want to be seen as the incarnation of the spirit of the people. And for that to be the case, you have to have a carefully molded spirit of the people. If for the political folk, the nation, the Slovenes, the Croats, the Hungarians, etc., that's as wonderful and as high as it can get, and its greatness is incarnate because it can't be present in everybody at once, since everyone can't rule everything. It's incarnate in them. So it's all about how wonderful they are. The truth is that a monarch can indeed transcend nationality. Think of colonialism. Think of Africa being decolonized and all the horrible, horrible things that happened. Or India. Over 1 million people died because of the partition of India. Was independence really worth that many people dying? I don't think so. But, this all outmoded state forms, it hadn't reached perfection, which is me ruling you. Well, no. The truth is that the inheritance of the Kingdom of Croatia by the Arpads, it's like any other inheritance of a kingdom. You get your king sent in a certain sense by God. even if he's a bad king, well, he's a punishment, kind of like a bad pope or a bad bishop, you know. And in that area, I mean, I was talking to you say a bad pope, a bad bishop is a punishment. My response is certainly not a blessing. You know, it's not a reward. So what does that leave? Um, Again, in the modern era, the problem with monarchy is that it puts some sort of a check and some sort of a balance on the political class, and that's the last thing the political class want. They want complete and unfettered power, and so historical monarchy is only useful to the degree that it was a stepping stone to perfection, which is them. Lock me down, kids. I think really, in a certain sense, the COVID lockdowns were the epitome of our masters. You've heard me say it often enough. When they had us take our masks, put our masks on, they took theirs off. Aren't they pretty?
The masks or the people?
People. Gaze upon my beauty and despair, said Joe Biden.
Okay. That's pretty close to Galadriel there. That was pretty close when she was offered the ring. All shall love me
True.
and despair.
That's right. It's Kamala Harris with the ring. I mean, can you imagine Kamala as Galadriel?
I feel like you should be fined for even simply asking that question and injecting that thought into my brain, into everyone's
What?
brain. That's just
should,
irresponsible. That's irresponsible.
But if I should sing of ships, then ships are what I should be singing about. If I'm going to sing about ships in a song, because songs are made to be sung about, and ships that are in songs are ships that should be sung about in order to have a song about ships.
Is that Kamala Harris talking about songs and ships?
Well, yeah. Her version of Galadriel's song.
All right. Nate says, why has no pope canonized Blessed Duns Scotus? Please explain this, Charles.
Well, because heavy Thomist influence, people don't like him for that purpose. Look, he was only beatified by John Paul II. So, you know, give it another century or two.
So, just straight up, Thomist bias, end of story, not interested.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. But I'm glad he got it, you know. Blessed Raymond Lull isn't a saint yet either. And I think for similar reasons.
Well, I feel like Duns Scotus is more contentious, no? Because he's more philosophical. I mean,
well, so was Lull.
I read Lull's book on chivalry.
Yeah, but he doesn't bring out his philosophy in that book.
Oh, okay. He has other books on philosophy?
Yes.
Oh.
In fact, Lullism is a philosophy. And you know who was the professor of Lullis philosophy at the University of Palma?
Father Junipero Serra? I don't know.
Yes, you're right.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And he was buried with a relic of it. He was quite devoted to Blessed Raymond Lull. So there.
Okay, very good, Charles. Thank you for that. Nate says,
You're most welcome.
Nate says, do you think it would be possible in the near future for one of the African countries to become a Catholic monarchy, given the increase of the Catholic faith in those countries? Also, I think it's interesting to mention the fact that Catholicism is still the largest religion in the world. Okay. I think we looked at the numbers. It's a little complicated, I think, because Christianity is the largest religion. Right? What would you say? Is Catholicism the largest religion in the world, Charles? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. And Pope Francis gloriously reigns over it.
Beautiful. All right. So do you think any African country is going to become a monarchy?
Well, it's a little bit tricky. There were, of course, there is one, Lesotho, which is the king is a Catholic. Rwanda and Burundi, the kings were Catholic, but they were destroyed with the help of the colonials. And then all over Africa, there are kingdoms, small kingdoms within the various countries. They generally called traditional rulers and things like that, and they reign over a small fraction of the national territory. And some of those are Catholic. You even have some Rajas in Indonesia who are Catholic, so they exist. The only way that they would become independent is for the central authorities in those countries to kind of vanish and have the countries go back onto their own. Because really today the colonies are the most of the countries in Africa are artificial constructs that their borders don't have any relationship to ethnic or tribal boundaries.
Wouldn't the instability in Africa allow for? I mean, wouldn't that make it easier for a Catholic monarchy to happen?
If they found a foreign sponsor who was willing to give them arms and money.
All right. Mark says, a question for the erudite, Mr. Coulombe. I've recently discovered a large amount of Luxembourgish ancestry and am in the works to obtain all the records and paperwork to reclaim my citizenship. What can Charles tell us about Luxembourg, and what does he think about becoming a citizen of the Grand Duchy? Is it worthwhile?
Well, the county of Luxembourg, as it was, the Grand Duchy as it is, was once a lot larger than it is now. But successively, the French and then the Germans took a big chunk out of it. Then in 1830, half of it went to Belgium, and what was left was the little Grand Duchy we have today. The Grand Duke, a few years ago, became famous because the Christian Democratic government brought in a euthanasia law. The Grand Duke refused to sign it, being a devout Catholic, and believing in reality, and not being a soul to the devil politician of the Christian Democratic variety. So he refused to sign it and let it go into law. So they took away the right of the Grand Duke to do that in order that they could have the euthanasia. Or to put this another way, it was more important for the scumbags in power to get their death for the elderly and the sick than to abide by the Constitution. See, that's the kind of scumbags that run Luxembourg. In other words, which you'll see throughout Western Europe and the United States.
Okay, so it's not this sort of elevated, more idyllic place.
No, I mean, the Grand Duke is a great man, and his family are neat. It's a beautiful country. I've been there. But, I mean, the conservatives are worthless scumbags. They never saw euthanasia except their own that they didn't want. I would have been happy if the whole Christian Democrat Party in Luxembourg had had itself euthanized to prove its point. Lead by example, you Luxembourger politicians. Just jump off cliffs. Bye-bye. And then the Grand Duke can run the country himself, and your corpses won't be needed. So that's how I feel about Luxembourg. It's a pretty country. I've enjoyed going there. In fact, a very good friend of mine lives there, and I have promised to go there in February or March.
Ooh. All right. Zach says, hey there, Vinny and Charles. I've been crying at Mass recently, specifically after communion. I don't go to Mass thinking this will happen. It's hard to explain the emotions behind it. It's a combination of sorrow, joy, relief, forgiveness, and the beauty of receiving. What do you think, Charles?
Well, it happens. I mean, not often to me, but it does happen from time to time. I mean, when you get a real flash of what it is you've just done, yeah, you're as close to heaven as you can get this side of the grave. Some of the early church fathers used to pray at communion, uh, as I have brought you into me, bring me into you. I mean, yeah, I'm not surprised it happens. You know, we don't live for emotional highs in our religion, but they do come on their own now and then.
Von Day Radio says, Dear Charles, would you agree that some of the knowledge of God is lost without temporal analogs, without earthly kingdoms that allow us to form an idea of the eternal kingdom?
Oh gosh, yes, 100%. I mean, you know, on the Feast of Christ the King, whether the old date at the end of October or the new date at the end of November, uh, how many times does the priest apologize for talking about Christ as King? We live in a republic and we resent this, and because we're stupid. Well, no, he doesn't generally put it that way, but might as well. No, I think that our lack of understanding of kingship helps to damage our understanding of Christ as King. Because, Catholic kingship was seen as a participation in the kingship of Christ. Nobody thinks that of the President of the United States. And regardless of party, regardless of who it is. I mean, I thought Reagan was a neat guy, but I certainly didn't think he was participating in the kingship of Christ.
As you say, you kind of make this point in general, I guess you could say, where kids kind of have it right. And it's sort of, I don't know, an education process plus other junk along the way. You sort of lose that worldview. Would you say?
I knew. Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine wrote a piece on why he was a monarchist, and he said the real question is not when did I become a monarchist? It's when did you stop being one? And I think that's fair. I think that's fair because kids are drawn to that kind of thing, to monarchy, to authority. I mean, what is the thing that you often hear out of a kid's mouth? That's not fair. Well, that implies there's an authority somewhere that makes those judgments to which the kid is actually, unconsciously or otherwise, appealing. There's a standard to be upheld. And of course, in a republic, nobody upholds it. Sometimes the monarchy is the king doesn't, but we know he's wrong when he doesn't. In a republic, no one actually expects the president to.
And as you say, Disney, he knew what kids like.
Oh gosh, yes.
Where's the story of the democracy and the politician and the senator that goes slaying the dragon?
Sleeping Beauty, her Sleeping Beauty sleeps for 100 years or whatever it is, and then wakes up so her dad can go back to Parliament. I mean, no.
Yeah.
No.
All right, we're and I know what all these detractors are gonna say. It's like, oh yeah, when we grow up, we stop believing in Santa Claus too. Ha ha ha. Oh wow,
That's right.
you're so smart. You're so smart.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Let me. All right, since you brought this up, all right, you did this. I'm not gonna be held responsible for this. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. It's a line from an editorial by uh, Francis Pharcellus Church, written in response to a letter by 8-year-old Virginia O'Hanlon asking whether Santa Claus was real. The editorial was first published in the New York newspaper The Sun on September 21st, 1897. So, is there a Santa Claus? We take pleasure in answering at once and thus prominently. The communication below is expressing at the same time our great gratification that its faithful author is numbered among the friends of the Sun. Dear editor, I am 8 years old. Some of my little friends say that there is no Santa Claus. Papa says if you see it in the sun, it's so. Please tell me the truth. Is there a Santa Claus? Virginia O'Hanlon, 115 West 95th Street. Virginia, your little friends are wrong. They have been affected by the skepticism of a skeptical age. They do not believe except they see. They think that nothing can be which is not comprehensible by their little minds. All minds, Virginia, whether they be men's or children's, are little. In this great universe of ours, man is a mere insect, an ant in his intellect, as compared with the boundless world about him, as measured by the intelligence capable of grasping the whole of truth and knowledge. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. He exists as certainly as love and generosity and devotion exist, and you know that they abound and give to your life its highest beauty and joy. Alas, how dreary would be the world if there were no Santa Claus! It would be as dreary as if there were no Virginias. There would be no childlike faith then, no poetry, no romance to make tolerable this existence. We should have no enjoyment except in sense and sight. The eternal light with which childhood fills the world would be extinguished. Not believe in Santa Claus? You might as well not believe in fairies. You might get your papa to hire men to watch in all the chimneys on Christmas Eve to catch Santa Claus. But even if they did not see Santa Claus coming down, what would that prove? Nobody sees Santa Claus, but that is no sign that there is no Santa Claus. The most real things in the world are those that neither men nor children can see. Did you ever see fairies dancing on the lawn? Of course not. But that's no proof that they're not there. Nobody can conceive of or imagine all the wonders there are, unseen and unseeable, in the world. You may tear apart the baby's rattle and see what makes the noise inside, but there is a veil covering the unseen world which not the strongest man, nor even the united strength of all the strongest men that ever lived, could tear apart. Only faith, fancy, poetry, love, romance can push aside that curtain and view and picture the supernal beauty and glory beyond. Is it all real? Ah, Virginia, in all this world, there's nothing else real and abiding. No Santa Claus. Thank God he lives, and he lives forever. 1,000 years from now, Virginia, nay, 10 times 10,000 years from now, he will continue to make glad the heart of childhood.
Hmm.
So there.
Well, you got me from my denial in the beginning, I guess. That really shuts me up.
I'll say.
But this kind of reminds me of another thing that you've said. Well, not just you, but just the nature of man, I guess you could say, and the way we're built. These innate yearnings that mankind has for heaven, for these types of things.
Yes.
For the magical. They're there for a reason. Animals do not have these yearnings, right?
No, they're not. Not usually. Your dog Doug used to.
Okay, well, other than Doug.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. Okay, kind of a little bit of a follow-up question from Von Day. He says, why do many Catholics, while worshiping Christ the King, do not understand or approve of the political form of monarchy?
Two words in a nutshell: Ireland and the United States. You know, the Irish experience with the British Crown turned off a lot of Irish Catholics on the British Crown and on monarchy in general. And in turn, that was seized as justification by American Catholics to justify our form of government, and at the same time ignore the fact that the establishment of that form of government took place partly in a fit of anti-Catholicism. So, you know, but that's why. Because if monarchy is a superior form of government, what does that do to the Irish Republic and the United States of America? Although I have to say that the devil's greatest victory in Ireland has been to identify the crown with heresy and the church with treason.
So you're talking about Americans and why Americans feel that way, right?
We have to defend not George III. We have to defend the revolution.
What about but Von Day? It's my understanding he's in the United Kingdom.
He are.
So is that a different situation for him there?
Oh, well, actually, in Britain, Catholics tend to be the most strident defenders of the monarchy. But there's usually a bit of ethnic Irish distrust, disdain, and dislike, which often uses the Jacobite cause to sort of snipe at the monarchy. You know, well, they're not real kings. We haven't had a real king since 1688, which in one sense, of course, is true, but in another sense isn't.
Interesting. Okay. That's pretty much it. Any final thoughts, Charles?
Thoughts? Well, yes. Yes, indeedio. It's not just Thanksgiving that's coming up. It's also St. Andrew's Day for all you Scots. So get ready to get them tartans on. And the first Sunday in Advent will be coming soon, and you know what that means. Advent, the new year, the church's new year, and we begin the countdown to Christmas. And then, once it's Christmas, it'll stay that way till Candlemas. And then, well, then we'll get into Mardi Gras, and to Carnival, and then Ash Wednesday, and then Lent, and then Easter. And we'll have to get through the summer and the Sundays after Pentecost. And my gosh, we'll be back where we are again before you can say Fireball XL5.
I had to actually look up.
You know,
I had to look up tartan. You said tartan for the Scots. What's the difference between a tartan and a kilt?
Well, the kilt is the article of clothing. The tartan is the pattern that goes on it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I mean, I have a McKinnon tartan tie, and then they've got trousers that are in tartan colors, but they're trousers. They're not a kilt. They call them trews. I spied a man in Highland trews. I speared him what was the news. He says the Scottish army ruse the day they ever came to Cromdale. Then the great Montrose did say, I will o'er the hills to stay, and then the great Montrose did say, Healing men show me the way, and I will o'er the hills to stay, and I'll view the halls of Cromdale. Alas, my lord, you're not so strong, you barely have 5,000 men. There's 50,000 that rank and file along the plains of Cromdale. Then the great Montrose did say, Healing men, show me the way, and I will o'er the hills to stay, and I'll view the halls of Cromdale. And then he did. And he won.
you're doing a lot of instrumentals today.
Instrumentals? Well, you know what this is? This is a Mexican hat dance.
Okay, that's yes, definitely. Thank you for that, Charles. That was. I like how you jump from Scot culture to Mexican culture like that.
Hey, it's because it's all in my head. It's all encompassed. It's all out there.
Hmm.
Way out there.
Way out there. But I have a question for you. What is it if it's Monday?
Please, I work best without a net. Off the menu.
But what about the soul you save?
It may be your own. And we will see you next week.